Hey, James here. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my ultimate guide to video content creation. We're going to be looking at exactly how I create videos like the one you're seeing now. You've probably seen me before in this set. I'm going to give you a little tour around, and we're going to be focusing on three key areas. Firstly, audio. How do you get your audio sounding the best you possibly can? Secondly, video and visuals. How do you make your video look and feel crisp like a Hollywood production? And thirdly, environment and set. What can you do to make the area that you're shooting in not only work as a kind of studio filming space, but also look stunning as well? We're going to be covering off all three of these things, so make sure you watch this video right to the end. Let's get started. So welcome along to this video. If you don't know me, my name is James Mulfady. I am founder of radio.co, podcast.co and matchmaker.fm, and we've been using videos like this to promote our products and our services probably since like 2008 was the first time I ever uploaded a YouTube video. Things have come along a little bit since then, both in terms of the equipment available to us as content producers, but also just the way we approach content production within our three businesses. It's been responsible for huge amounts of customers over the years, and obviously over the past year I've been focusing on growing my personal brand and uploading a lot of my own content as well. So a lot of you guys have been asking, how do you make really good videos, and what approach should you take when it comes to producing good content that's not only interesting and captivating, but also educational, and also a great tool to also grow a business or brand as well. So as I mentioned, I want to talk three things in this video. Firstly, let's talk about audio, because audio is very important when it comes to video, although that sounds a bit strange. I'll explain what I mean in a second. Secondly, the visuals and lighting. And thirdly, environment and set. Okay, so let's get started with audio. Now, most of my videos I'll record using a lapel mic. You'll see this clipped onto my shirt here. This is a Sennheiser lapel mic, and we have this connected up to a mic pack. This little device here, this is a wireless transmitter. On the other end of things, connected to the main camera, we've got the receiver. Really simple, you can connect a microphone to it. It's also got a little built-in microphone as well, so you can actually clip this to your shirt. You might have seen some videos where I'm outside, walking around, talking to the camera. Really good for that. Also, just generally when we're here in our sort of studio setting, it gives us ability to kind of move around without having any ties. Something else that you might want to consider for your setup is using an actual microphone like this. We see a lot of YouTubers doing this. We do this with some of our videos as well. You can literally connect a microphone. This is a Shure SM7B. You can have it right in front of you. Obviously, it's something to think about. You know, quite often it will kind of end up blocking your face. So just think about your positioning. If you're going to be using a microphone like this, make sure that you've got a clear passage between your face and the camera, because otherwise you're going to end up looking a bit strange, sort of sat behind a microphone. You can connect this directly to your camera via some kind of interface normally, or you can connect it to something like this, which is the Rodecaster Pro, and this will actually record directly to an SD card, or you can connect it to your laptop. Audio is really, really crucial when it comes to video. The temptation a lot of people have is, well, I've just invested in a big expensive new camera. Maybe you've just bought the latest Canon DSLR or a fancy Sony camera, and you think, okay, well, the camera is great quality, so let's set that up on my tripod and that's going to be it. That's going to be enough to capture the audio as well as the video. Unfortunately, most of the time, that's not the case. So right now, obviously you're listening to me connected directly through my lapel mic. But if I switch to our second angle and you listen to the audio, which is, this camera is not a cheap camera, it's a high-end Sony DSLR style camera. Really, really good quality video, I'm sure you'll agree. But right now, the audio probably doesn't sound very good. However, if we switch back to my microphone, you'll see it sounds a lot better. So when it comes to creating video, audio, very, very important. Don't ignore it. You need to make sure that you've got a decent microphone, ideally as close to you as possible. Failing that, you could use something like an onboard shotgun microphone. Again, Rode have got a great bunch of these which are available, and you can basically slot them on top of your camera. Again, if you've got the camera fairly close to you, they work pretty well. If the camera's a little bit further away, right now the camera's probably 6-10 feet away from me, it will pick up on a lot of the echoes and reverberations going on in the room. Again, you can end up picking on background noise. So the best thing to do is try and get the camera as close to the audio source, e.g. you, as possible. Okay, so next up, let's talk about video. Video, of course, is equally as important as audio. We currently have a 2-camera setup. I'm going to hand you over now to Jack, who is one of our in-house videographers. He produces lots of content, not only for our own brands, but also works with a lot of clients we work with as well. So Jack is going to talk you through our camera setup for this shoot and give you some tips and advice on how to set up your cameras, or which cameras you can go for when it comes to buying equipment.
Yeah, so I'm Jack. I'm one of the videographers here at podcast.co, radio.co. And I also work on James's personal brand. And so typically what we do for our shoots is we'll have one main camera, which is normally the Lumix GH5, Panasonic Lumix GH5. And one of the best reasons we use that is because it shoots 4K really well. So when we shoot in 4K, it means in the edit we can crop in, and we actually get 2 shots out of each camera. Our second camera here is the Sony a6600, which is another really good camera, and it also shoots in 4K. But the reason we use this on the gimbal is because it's small and light, so it doesn't ache your arms. Another reason we use the a6600 is the autofocus is exceptional, and it's much better actually than the Lumix. And the reason you want that on the gimbal is you don't want to have to keep focusing with it. You want to just basically be able to trust it and let it go. We have GoPros, we have a DJI Osmo Pocket, and we also have a Blackmagic Cinema camera, which all have their uses as well. But generally for these sort of shoots, we stick with the Lumix GH5s and the Sony a6600. So the reason we use smaller cameras as opposed to massive video cameras like the Canon C200, for example, which we did used to use, is just portability. But also nowadays, the camera quality in a smaller mirrorless or DSLR camera is just as good as it would have been in one of the massive video cameras. So another great thing about the Sonys and the Lumix is they have a wide range of lenses. So our lens on our A camera here is a wider shot. So once you crop out, you can see the whole set. As well as having wide shots, we also have macro lenses, which are great for getting up close in B-roll, getting detail into products, and also for more intimate conversations.
All right, so now I want to talk about the set and the lighting and also using props. Let's spoil the illusion a bit, because you're used to seeing this kind of highly polished angle with the fancy artwork behind me. But actually, if we crop out, over here we've got like a storeroom, and we've even right around here got kind of like the rest of the office, which you can see. So basically, just kind of goes to show we're not in like some kind of Hollywood set here, but what we have done is created our own set and our own environment. I want to start off with lighting. Lighting is really important. If I switch off the lighting, let's just turn these 2 lights off. There we go. Okay. So as you can see now, we switched off all of the lighting, so I'm pretty sure that it will probably look really bad. So this is our regular office lighting. As you can see, not really very flattering and doesn't make the video look good. This is because I've got sort of spotlights which are above me, which is fine if you kind of sat at your computer working, but not great when it comes to lighting for your video. So this is why we use these LED panel lights. Traditionally, we kind of use a 3-point setup. So we'll have a key light, a fill light, and then something to light the background. So if I switch these back on, I'll just talk you through them now. This is the backlight. So the sole purpose of this light is just to kind of alleviate any shadows on this background, and also just kind of make the colors pop. So next up, this is our key light. The key light needs to be the brightest light. This is a double width LED panel, and we also have it dialed up to a brighter setting. And next up, we'll switch on our fill light. The fill light is not as bright as the key light, but the fill light basically helps, again, alleviate any of those sort of nasty shadows. So next up, I want to talk about creating texture in your background. As you can see over here, we've got a couple of colored lights, and this is our recording booth. We use this to do a lot of voiceover work, kind of stuff, record podcasts, etc. We've actually got like a green LED in there. Again, it just kind of helps give the shot a little bit of depth. So as you can see here, we've kind of got like a blue light. Again, it looks pretty cool with all the metal, kind of like gives all of this equipment a bit of depth, and it creates a bit of an interesting texture in the background. These colored lights we've got are great actually. These you can change the color. So simply by toggling, there's all different colors you can select. They're RGB par cans, LED, so again, they don't get very hot, and you can kind of like mount them on the floor. You can have them up high, facing down. You can do all sorts of stuff with these. But these are really, really good to create kind of a bit of texture and give your shot some more depth. So as I mentioned, now I want to swivel around, show you kind of what's going behind the camera. So this is our main camera, which Jack mentioned earlier, the Panasonic Lumix, which is normally what I'm talking into when I'm sat over there. Behind this, we've got a big, heavy, thick sound curtain. This kind of looks like we're doing some kind of magic show or something. However, the actual reality is we're in a busy office environment. Quite often there's people talking in the background, there's phones ringing, and also my voice projecting forward. This helps dampen down the sound and creates kind of a quieter corner in the office. Another problem we're faced with here, which we can't really do much about, is the fact that we're actually based in a busy city centre, so we'll quite often have trams going past, we'll have sirens, cars honking their horns, buses, you name it. Not a lot we can do about this, but bear it in mind, if you're in a busy environment, sometimes you have to re-record stuff because suddenly you'll get a siren going past, or suddenly there'll be some kind of noise outside that really you can't control. So the best thing to do if you're in like an unfortunate position like we are, is just wait for a quiet moment. And again, sometimes we'll end up re-recording stuff because there's lots of noise outside. Also, ask your colleagues politely to be as quiet as they can whilst you're filming. It makes a big difference. All right, finally, I wanted to talk about the set. This is what you're seeing around me. First thing you'll notice, we're on quite a high table here. This is kind of like a bar height stool. I kind of prefer to either be stood up or sat on a stool most of the time when I'm doing videos. It's easier to project your voice, and it's also kind of keeps you more alert. I think sometimes if you sat down like a kind of slouchy chair, it can kind of feel a little bit too lazy. So I think when you're doing video, having that extra level of energy comes across really well on camera, and I've got other videos talking about how to present to camera and stuff. Check them out on my channel, by the way, and if you're not subscribed, now's a good chance to mention subscribe, because I'm always creating great content like this about creating video, audio, and being your best that you possibly can when it comes to presenting on down the microphone, on camera, etc. So you know the drill. Also talk about the background. It kind of looks really boring if you're shooting against like a plain background. We have various different techniques that we use. Sometimes we'll be shooting against some kind of textured background. We'll sometimes shoot against plain color. We have lots of colored backdrops that we can use. We can use green screen. This set here, we've permanently designed, not only because it looks kind of cool in the office when we have visitors come and visit, but it looks great in videos too. So let me just talk you through what we've got going on behind us. This is actually a painted graphic. We had a local artist come in and create this for us. He did a fantastic job. Believe it or not, most of this was all just designed kind of freehand. Really, really talented guy. If you've got the budget for it and you've got a space that you want to kind of bring to life for filming videos, but also just because it looks kind of cool in your office, strongly recommend just find some local artists. There's generally kind of, you'll be able to locate someone who can come in and do some cool graphics for you, whether it's like graffiti or kind of geometric like we've got, or whatever it takes your fancy, but just have something custom created. Alternatively, you could perhaps look at installing a neon sign or even some printed fancy wallpaper, just something to make the background look a little bit more interesting than a plain wall. Next up, I want to talk about props. You can see here we've got kind of a variety of vintage radios and this kind of old school tape recorder, which is pretty cool. Quite often we'll have these just in the background of the shot for no other reason than, again, it just kind of adds a little bit more of an interesting perspective. Obviously, most of the content we're creating here is all about audio, so nothing says audio like some cool vintage radios or tape machines, right? Again, depending on what your content is, should depend on the props that you've got behind you. It would kind of look a bit weird if I had Star Wars characters or something completely obscure, but because I'm talking about audio, I'm talking about content creation, having these kind of behind me fits in really well with the brief. Or go with something generic. We have a bunch of these plants that we use. These plants, unfortunately, are not real, but they do look pretty real. Again, I think be careful you're not kind of shooting against cheesy background plants. These have kind of got a little bit of design texture to them. They kind of look more interesting. They are fake. That is on purpose because we're in quite a dark corner of the office here, and also it means that we don't have to remember to water them. And we quite often will use props in front of me too. So we'll either go with fancy lights. We have a cool big glass bulb here. Again, just add some texture to the shot, something interesting to look at. Again, quite often we'll have a microphone in front of me because it subliminally says audio, content creation, radio, podcasting, whatever the video is about. Microphone says it all. Or use devices like the Rodecaster or have a mixing desk. Again, adding these kind of elements into your shot, it makes it a little bit more interesting, and you're kind of creating a set versus just creating boring content sat at a desk or, sat with sort of like a blank wall behind you. Think about your positioning as well. If you've got space to work with, there's actually probably about 12-15 feet between the camera and the wall here. The desk that I'm sat at and me are kind of equidistant between the camera and the wall. This just gives it a little bit of depth and gives your shots more kind of a pleasing aesthetic than if you're really kind of crammed close up against the camera and close up against the wall. So again, it's something to think about. I appreciate that you don't always have a lot of space to play with. A lot of the time last year, I was actually in lockdown, in my flat recording videos. So in that situation, I didn't have as much space to play with. But what I did was create a sort of set in its own right by having some interesting items on my desk. Quite often, I'd have a microphone in front of me, I'd have the Rodecaster on my desk. Try and think about how you can dress your set to look as good as it possibly can. So thanks for watching this video. If you found this useful, remember to give it a thumbs up. And also comment below. I'm intrigued to know if you're thinking about creating a set similar to mine, or you're thinking about creating a video studio. Maybe you've got a spare corner in your office, your house, that you're going to turn into a mini YouTube studio like we've got here. Comment below with your ideas. I'm intrigued to know what your plans are, what you want to do. Likewise, if you've got any questions about any of the topics we've talked about today, sling them in the comments. I love to respond and also create more videos around specific questions that you may have. So feel free to get involved. Just let me know in the comments below. Hey, before you go, let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm always posting interesting content like this over on my LinkedIn channel, and it'd be cool to hang out. So go to jamesm.com/connect, click on LinkedIn, send me a connection request. And once we're connected, send me a message, say you came over from this video, and I'll send you some cool things for free. Sound fair? Well, head to jamesm.com/connect and connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll see you over there.